You're tuned into the DAAB Podcast, presented by the Wide World of Rome, and hosted by Andrew Romanella and Anthony Rinaldi. You can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. All that we ask is when you're done, please rate, review, and share this podcast with a friend, as well as reach out to us on social media at DAAB Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome in to the 80th edition of the DAAB Podcast, the premier sports podcast. I am your host, Andrew Romanella, and with me always, my partner, Mr. Anthony Rinaldi.
Hey, Drew. How much pie is left down there in Dallas?
Dude.
Oh, my God.
Zeke got the bag, as the kids would say.
Secure the bag.
Unbelievable, dude. I am super fired up. The people heard it on the intro, but we're going to remind them again that they always need to get us on the Twitter and the gram.
Social media.
We want the fan interactions. We need the fan interactions. So please get us on those. And we got a football show lined up for the people today, Mr. Rinaldi. And I'm super stoked because, as you know, it's Thursday, September 5th, and it's the start of the NFL season.
Opening day. Not quite like baseball, but you know what, folks? Everyone's jazzed up. Bears, Packers, but Andrew, you know my mind is in the state of New York.
Oh, it's the New York state of mind. It is.
And you jogged my memory of something that I've been thinking about all off season. And when you said that, I believe you told me in the pre-show, Case Keenum will be the quarterback. Will start quarterback down there in D.C. Is that correct? And
it was actually Mr. Alfred Hitchcock who's been screaming, yelling about how that was going to happen, and it did.
So, I mean, why not start Dwayne Haskins? I mean, what are the Redskins playing for?
I think it might be the same situation that's happening in New York where it's like, we're going to start this veteran fully expecting that at some point over the course of this season, the rookie's going to get playing time.
Now, here's what gets me fired up. And me as a Giant guy, I grew up with this guy. He's my quarterback. I'm an Eli guy. He got me 2 championship rings in 16 years. I thank you, Mr. Eli Manning. But for some reason, Andrew, I want to see number 8, Daniel Jones, be my quarterback.
Really?
And I say that because I need to see that the 6th pick is what he's supposed to be, and he could be the quarterback for the next 16 years. I greatly appreciate Eli Manning for what he did for me. But at this point, and where this team is right now, I just think it's not wasting another year of Saquon. But, I mean, what are we really doing as with the New York Football Giants? Do you think Eli will take us to 10-6, 9-7, maybe sneak into the playoffs? Highly unlikely, folks. I mean, Eli is what Eli is at this stage of his career.
Let me ask you this, though.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this, okay? And if Daniel Jones is drafted, let's say late first round, early second round, do you still have the same feels and wants of not even seeing Eli Manning touch the field this year? Or is it solely because they spent a top 10 pick on him, that's why you feel the need to see him right away?
It's probably a combination of everything, because I don't want to pick when it happened, because like I said, I did not watch any Duke football games last year. I watched a lot of Duke basketball games hoping to get Zion, but then we digress. So for me, yes, he's the 6th pick. I know he's the future. I know Eli was the past. And to me, I think we'd be the same team. Not to knock Eli, but I think if Daniel Jones starts, and not to take anything from the preseason, because he's playing vanilla defenses and he's not playing many of the starters. But Daniel Jones did shine, and he proved, at least to me, in this little small sample size, that, you know what, he was probably not going to be there at 17, and he was probably the right pick for the Giants at 6. And frankly, I just bought a jersey, so let's put that up there in the closet, Andrew. I've had a great streak of Giant jerseys. Not. So for me, folks, I can't wait for Sunday. 425. Suck it, Zeke. I don't care where you came back from Cabo and you signed your $90 million. I hope you choke on that money. And I'm teaser alert, Alfred Hitchcock. But I'm maybe go with my New York Giants this Sunday.
Do you feel like the Giants have enough on that football team, plus the early schedule that gives them an opportunity to be an above 500 football team heading into week 6 of the year? Do you believe they have enough to actually make the playoffs? Because I'm just slightly concerned about the weapons that are around Eli Manning. I obviously need to see the offensive line be a little bit better. And of course, I just think there are question marks all over that defense as to whether or not they can be a shutdown defense that always keeps teams under 21 points.
Wow. Well, to be honest with you, I'm scared of a lot of holes in the Giant team. Frankly, the defense scares me a lot.
Wow.
Frankly, the defense scares me a whole hell of a lot, more so than the offense. Even though the offense is very incompetent under Eli Manning when he's under duress. But I gotta say, I love the O-line. I think another year together. Obviously, it didn't work out too well for my man out of New England last year, over as the highest paid O-lineman. But hopefully, another year under his belt, and he'll figure it out. Listen, we made some trades. Again, Eli's gonna have to get rid of the ball quick. Wide receivers are gonna have to get open. There's gonna be a lot of what ifs for the Giants, and I feel like every year I go into the season thinking that we're gonna be good. We suck, and every year I think we're gonna suck. We end up going 9-7 in a wild card and somehow make it to the Super Bowl. So for my purposes, I hope we suck and go 9-7 and make it to the Super Bowl. But like I said in my NFC East prediction, I'm a realist. I understand the Giants probably aren't going to do much in that division, let alone, anything towards the playoffs. So, do I want to see 3-13? No, but I do want to see number 8 back there to see if we have anything at quarterback for our future going forward.
Hot take right here. Evan Ingram is the leading receiver for the New York Football Giants at the end of the 2019 season.
Eric, Evan Ingram will be the number 1 fantasy tight end.
Wow. Now I'm saying wow.
Put that in your hot takes.
Oh,
Andrew.
my God. And smoke it. That's what you were going to say. I know you were going to say that.
I was, but it's a family program.
It is. You're right. Now I have to put the explicit button on for this episode. There it is. Episode 80. Not PG-13 anymore. Okay, how about the Jetropolitans across town? Because I think for a lot of people going into the 2019 campaign, they really do feel like the Jets, out of the 2 New York teams, have more of an opportunity to compete for a playoff spot and feel a little bit better about A, the weapons, B, the quarterback situation, and C, the type of defense that they can be.
You gotta like your Jets if you're a fan. I don't think they're a playoff team this year. They may surprise some teams, some people, but I think they're still a player or two away. Their defense took some hits early, losing Avery Williamson. That's a big loss at a linebacking crew. Their cornerbacks are miserable. They're gonna get beat down worse than a redheaded stepchild. So frankly, for me, it's all the offense, and it's Sam Darnold, and it's what has the Jets done for this quarterback in year 2, adding Jamison Crowder, Ty Montgomery, Lev Bell, adding some guys to the O-line, making that offensive line stronger and better for him. So to me, obviously, and it's such an easy thing to say, but the Jets are going to go as far as Sam Darnold takes them this year.
I agree with you 1,000%. And if that defense, and I think in the pre-show you may have said it, Anthony, and you spoke about the front 7 for the Jets defense being particularly strong, but it's just that, can the cornerbacks hold up? Obviously, you have 2 good safeties and Marcus May's healthy, so that's huge, but can you hold, because part of being able to turn the football over, especially from an interception standpoint, is that front 7 getting a good push and those corners being able to keep those receivers covered and take advantage of bad thrown footballs because of the pressure. The other part of that, though, is when your front seven can't get a huge push on the quarterback, or your front four can't get a huge push on the quarterback, you need those linebackers and those corners to be able to cover those wide receivers long enough to get that second push, to get the quarterback outside the pocket, to create something defensively. And I think you're spot on about the cornerback play for the Jets. I mean, we're talking about possible free agent signees, undrafted free agents starting for the Jets on the outside for that team. So I think those two now veteran safeties are going to come into play for them. I think that's going to be huge for whether or not that secondary produces or doesn't for this team.
And that will be the Achilles heel for the Jets in the 2019-2020 season. It's not going to be an easy ride. The AFC's got a lot of great teams, a lot of pass-happy teams, a la your Kansas City, a la your LA Chargers. All these teams, Patriots, they'll be throwing the ball all down the field. Newly instated Josh Gordon. So I mean, listen, the Jets are gonna have to find some cornerbacks and hope to one, show up and next man up, because it's gonna be 16 weeks of just throwing the ball deep on the Jets.
7-9, that's my feels.
Yeah, like I said, they're probably a player or two away. They had great additions like Lev Bell. Obviously, he's a big one, and I think he's gonna be shot at a cannon the first few weeks. The dude's hungry. Dude wants to play. And hopefully for my sake, because I have him in fantasy, I hope he does some damage.
Of course, and that's the way our football viewing happens nowadays in the United States of America. My New York state of mind is cooking right now, but I really want to go around the league a little bit here, Ant, because a few interesting storylines have hit, and I also want to make our AFC North predictions. So I'm going to put the ball in your court here, okay? Would you like to predict our last division and break it down, or would you like to discuss how the Houston Texans and the Miami Dolphins essentially switched half their rosters, and then the Texans went and switched their roster some more and sent like 60 draft picks to other teams?
We can go a myriad of options, but let's break down the AFC North.
Oh.
Let's give a little love to the Northeast here, because frankly, that's a pretty brutal division. That's some big boy football when you think about it, Andrew.
What are you thinking?
I don't want to cop out and say the Steelers, because I feel like they had another huge loss. Obviously, they didn't have Lev Bell last year. Now you lose AB. Maybe it's addition by subtraction, similar to the New York Giants getting rid of Odell. But for me, I think it's going to be sneaky. I don't want to say it's Cleveland either. I think that's going to be the popular pick. Everyone's going to be on the Cleveland's jockstrap because of all the fancy new toys Baker Mayfield has. But I'm going to go with the Ravens. Something about John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. They're just going to figure it out. They have a real young defense. They're fast. They're hungry. They're not quite like the defense of old with those just beat 'em down linebackers and Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs. But they got speed on the outside. They got some pass rushers. I like Lamar Jackson. I think the addition of Mark Ingram in the running game is definitely going to help them. And, like I said, up here in the Northeast, the ball and smash mouth football and John Harbaugh and the Ravens, they do that.
I really thought I was going to come in here and scream and yell at you about choosing the Steelers, and I couldn't agree more. I feel something about that team too, man. Every year they have a good defense, and Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh together, and we saw the other Harbaugh with Colin Kaepernick, another profiled running quarterback, and we saw magic with them going to the Super Bowl, and I just feel like that exact same thing is going to happen in Baltimore, and I'm going to pick them there. And I think, and I've said this before, I don't even think the Browns are going to make the playoffs because I feel like something's going to go wrong there. So I think the Steelers are actually going to finish in second in this division, and then it's going to fall with the Browns, then the Bengals. I'm just really curious to see from a Cincinnati standpoint what a Cincinnati team without Marvin Lewis looks like. We haven't seen that in like 120 years. I'm also curious to see if we'll ever see Cincinnati win a playoff game. So those two curiosities are there for me in the AFC North, but I think it's the Ravens that win it. I think it's down to the wire though, Ant. I think this is one of those divisions where we're watching week 17 games, and one of these teams is finishing as the wild card because of a win or a loss, and one of these teams is winning the division because of a win or a loss.
This division's always, like you just said, always ends crazily. Something always happens. It's either Pittsburgh, it's Baltimore. Pittsburgh, it's Baltimore. It's Baltimore, it's Pittsburgh. to me, it scares me because I hate taking a running quarterback. I've never been a fan of a running quarterback. I don't think a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson can win a Super Bowl. I've always been a pocket passer kind of guy. But to me, that it's so gimmicky, and he's such a video game. Like he reminded me. He reminds me of that young Michael Vick when he was on the Falcons, and he just jukes you left, right, and you just dive at his ankles, and you're just missing.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't take that many big hits. At least I didn't see that many last year. Obviously, there was that funny little meet up at half field with Aaron Rodgers, where Aaron Rodgers said he's a huge fan, and he just said, "Hey, slide more."
Yep.
It's kind of funny, but it's kind of true.
So true.
And if Lamar Jackson ever does figure out how to throw football, look out.
And I agree 1,000%. And I think this might be the year. And if not this year, then definitely next year that happens for him. And then, by the way, I want to remind the people that with that AFC North breakdown right there, Anthony and I have now broken down every division in the National Football League, as well as giving you a top 5, not only on every fantasy position, who we would have drafted at the time. We could all one day, if we wanted to, break down how our fantasy teams are going based on who we did draft. But either way, if you have a late fantasy draft, maybe, or you just want to hear our positional breakdowns, go check back on some of these casts. And we're talking about John Harbaugh, right? And being a pretty good coach. Or Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh? Baltimore? John.
Jim. I believe Jim's in Michigan now.
Whatever. Jay Harbaugh in Baltimore. I'd put him in my top 10 for coaches. Not my top 5, but we discussed that last week. So people need to go, and they need to go listen to that.
Sending the folks back to the website. Send the folks back to the previous podcast. You, my friend, are a professional. How
do you feel about the Houston Texans getting Laramie Tunsil, getting Kenny Stills from the Miami Dolphins, sending Jadeveon Clowney to Seattle, and giving away a boatload of picks?
Frankly, I'm miffed that the Houston Texans still don't have a GM. I mean, they're operating on this kind of not false premise with Bill O'Brien, but I feel like with the GM is there for a checks and balances system. Sure, you want to win now and you want to help your team improve, but if you're not there, if you're not there looking out for the future of the organization, I mean, they could be a crapshoot for the next few years. And that's kind of the direction it looks like they're going. But it's funny because I think they improved.
They did. I agree.
And
Carlos Hyde, too, I think they signed.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Laramie Tunsil, you've seen him all day long. He's nothing but a stud. And will they give up 2 first-rounders in a second round, I think?
Yeah, which I think – the Dolphins now have like 4 first-round picks in like the next 2 drafts. Like, it's insane. Like, they have – so many picks in the first 2 rounds. It might be 8 total in the next like 2 drafts or something along those lines in the first 2 rounds. It's like something crazy like that, which I like. And I'm okay with it. And I don't believe they're quote unquote tanking, but it's almost like 2 teams operating under like this wild, wild west mentality. Like we're going to go through 4 preseason games, 4 weeks of preseason, and then we're going to completely uproot our entire roster. Like that is crazy if you really think about it from both the Texans and the Miami Dolphins standpoint.
And similarly to my point about the Texans, I mean, they didn't even reach out to Tunsil yet to sign him long term. Like
right.
This dude, he's going to hold all the leverage in the off season, or even he holds it now, I guess, because they didn't even discuss the contract with him. So I don't think he's going to walk. I mean, he might walk, and Houston might just say, "All right, listen, Houston has had three top first pick, I'd say 3 number 1 picks in the last, since 2006 it was, that they haven't re-signed him to a second contract, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, which means A, they're not drafting the right guys, and B, after 5 years they say, all right, thanks for your service, now go elsewhere.
Right.
I mean, talking guys like Mario Williams, I believe it was Derek Carr, not Derek Carr, he's a quarterback now. David Carr, his brother. So
his brother thing is difficult.
I just think Houston right now is kind of – they're playing for right now, which is, I guess, what you want to do as a team. But to me, I think that's just a dumpster fire waiting to happen. J.J. Watt's got to stay healthy.
Anthony.
What he can do now without Jadeveon Clowney on the other side.
A
lot more double teams going his way.
Did the Miami Dolphins Aroldis Chapman the Houston Texans?
I don't know if they're going to re-sign Tunsil when he comes back around. I mean, they might if they like him and the price is right. But I think you'll see the Dolphins do a lot of moving and shaking in next year's draft with all those picks. They're definitely going to get a top pick, probably, most likely. And then they're going to package a bunch, and they're going to come back in the first round, and you're going to see them they're going to grab a bunch of young talent, and they're going to go from there, Andrew.
I'm kind of not mad about that, though. And I'm kind of super stoked and excited about the future of this organization because, hey, listen, if you know you feel like after 4 weeks of the preseason you're going to be a pretty mediocre team, then that's okay. Make some moves, whatever. That's fine. If it's a fire sale, it's a fire sale. I am a little question mark-esque on the fact that they traded Tunsil because either way, he could still be a part of your build, your rebuild, whatever you want to call it. He's 25. Like, it's not like we're talking about a dude that's 31 and he's like one of the best offensive linemen in the league. We're talking about a dude that's 25. So like, even if you're not good for 2 more years, he's still 27. And he's anchoring the left side of your offensive line. So that's the only thing that kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way and annoys me. But I don't know. Hey, who am I? I'm not the football people. I guess I'll put my trust in Brian Flores and the front office of the Miami Dolphins that they see something, they see things that I don't. I'm cool with that, and we'll see, how it shakes out. The one question I have for you before I ask if you can count or not count on certain things in this upcoming 2019 NFL season. Do you feel like now that Zeke has signed the 6-year, $90 million extension with the Dallas Cowboys, that this Cowboys team, knowing he's going to be playing all 16 games, is definitely a contender in the playoffs?
How do you not consider them a playoff contender, Andrew? I mean, this is probably the best team the Cowboys have constructed since the early 90s when they were a powerhouse. And you look at Stem's front, they have the quarterback, they have the running back, they have the wideout. And, I mean, they've always kind of had that formula, with Des Bryant and Tony Romo, and I believe it was DeMarco Murray way back in the day. And then now you have with Zeke and Cooper and Dak, throwing old man Winton back in there in tight end mix. I mean, the defense just signed Tank Williams, so he's going to be chasing around the quarterbacks. Listen, their linebacking crew is probably the best in football. Their cornerbacks, similar to the Jets, are left for a little left to be desired. But I mean, besides the tough division with the Eagles, I mean, the Cowboys are right up there. They'll be one of the last things left for the NFC for sure.
I agree.
Which pains me to say it, but I mean, if Dak Prescott is a little bit more than a game manager and keeps them keeps that ship afloat and heading in the right direction, they're going to be a dangerous team. Come December, January.
I'm curious to see Kellen Moore's offense. I'm excited. Does he help make Dak Prescott a better quarterback? And can Dak Prescott be the guy that the Dallas Cowboys need him to be able to take that next step as a real contender? Those are my two questions because I think the defense is going to show up enough. I think it's going to be there enough. The offensive line is good enough. Zeke is good enough. But I think Dak Prescott is the key to that team taking that next step to becoming a legit playoff contender. That is what I believe, and I'm curious to see if Kellen Moore can unlock that door.
Talking about offensive coordinator coaching, my big question mark for the Cowboys is Jason Garrett. Can this dude figure out how to coach his team to a few playoff victories? He seems to be the common denominator that's lasted the last, 15 years of that team. Hot take from
Anthony Spataro, our friend, Siena baseball coach.
Had a great name.
Yeah, right. Great name. His hot take is Jalen, what's his name, at Oklahoma. Why am I drawing a blank?
Hurts.
Jalen Hurts wins the Heisman. Jason Garrett gets fired. Lincoln Riley becomes the Dallas Cowboys head coach.
If this season unfolds the way it looks like it's going to for Oklahoma, after that butt whooping and the almost perfect game Jalen Hurts, put out there in his first start as the QB. I mean, the Big 12 is garbage when it comes to defenses and coaching schemes because they're just everyone throws the ball in the Big 12. But I mean, Lincoln Riley will write whatever check he wants if Jalen Hurts is Heisman, was it 3 years in a row?
Yeah.
The Heisman Trophy.
Could you imagine?
This dude, I'll tell you, he will write any check he wants in the NFL.
100%. I mean, if Cliff Kingsbury's going to get the head coaching job in Arizona, why wouldn't you hire Lincoln Riley?
I mean, the dude's just, and he's what? He's like 32, 30. He's probably McVay's age. He's young as hell.
He is, and that may, but hey, that could maybe be the trend moving forward. All right, Ant, here's the deal, okay? We got 2 more things going on this podcast, all right? And that doesn't include your favorite segment, Whataya Got, but we always know that goes on this podcast.
Fire.
The kid is on fire. It's kind of scary. But I have 2 things for you. We have some fan interactions today, our fan interactions, but they're in the form of predictions, thanks to your boy John Gutty Guddington. And I have Ken.
He's back from his 1-week hiatus.
He's back. He took a vacay, but he's back for us. Episode 80. It was nice of him to show up.
Intern John Gutty Guddington.
I also have can or can't you count on it? And I have 3 questions lined up here for you, Mr. Rinaldi. And I want to know that simple answer. Can or can't you count on it? Are you ready?
Fire away.
Oh, this is exciting. Okay. Can or can't you count on Tom Brady winning the MVP?
Oh, he's starting out with a GOAT. What a brutal way to end. I'm going to say you can't count on Tom Brady at 43 years old to win the MVP.
Wow. You don't think he could do it?
I know he can do it. I don't want him to do it. But no, he cannot do it, Andrew. Not at 43. Not with future Hall of Famer Pat Mahomes leading the way.
Well, then that's a good argument. All right, number 2. Can or can't you count on the Jets making the playoffs?
Oh, teaser. Rewind the podcast, folks. You can't count on the Jets not making the playoffs.
Wow.
7-9 was a good number. I may even go 6-10 just because I hate the Jets.
Oh, wow. Okay. Your last can or can't you count on it. And ladies and gentlemen, you'll be able to play along on Instagram. Odell Beckham Jr. leads the Browns in touchdown receptions in 2019.
That's more of a yes or no, but that's the way you phrase that. Ken Odell.
Can or can't you count on Odell Beckham Jr. leading the Browns in touchdown receptions in 2019?
That is the $1 million question. You can count on one Mr. 13, Odell Beckham Jr. to lead the Browns. Just because I do like Jarvis Landry, I do like Njoku, I do like Chubb, I do like all their studs and what have you. But Odell is a chippy guy. He hasn't played 16 games. If he does, he's something scary. I think Baker Mayfield is going to feed him early and often. And I think you may see Odell put up more touchdowns than his jersey number.
Wow. Well, I don't think you can count on it. You can't count on it, in my opinion. I don't see him playing 16 games. And for some reason, I just don't feel like he's going to lead the team in TDs. I don't know why. But I can't count on it. So you and me differ in the Odell Beckham Jr. pick. And Tom Brady, I don't know, man. I just feel like he's got one more of those years in him where he wins an MVP. And it's just like, wow. He's the GOAT, and that's why he's the GOAT. It's maybe not about a Super Bowl. It's about him literally being the most valuable player in the National Football League.
I would say there is nothing more that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick want is to face the Giants one last time in the Super Bowl and beat them.
I agree.
That's like the one thing that is like the one kryptonite, the one little tiny blemish on their records when it comes to the GOATs for coaching and quarterbacking. Is a little guy, my old quarterback, Eli Manning, Tom Coughlin. Come get some.
That was Can or Can't You Count on It. I hope the ladies and gentlemen of the DAAB Podcast community enjoyed that segment. I very much enjoy that segment because I love asking Antony questions that he gives me true, down to the earth, doesn't know anything about the question answers because it's the raw and uncut version.
Andrew, that is a premier game that we're playing.
That is a premier game on the premier sports podcast on the wide world of Rome. I mean, we could just drop it all day, kid. All right, here's the deal. John Gutty Guddington wrote into the DAAB Podcast because he's a huge fan of the DAAB Podcast. I believe he runs the DAAB Podcast fan zone on daabpodcast.com. Go check it out. He asked us our Super Bowl predictions and our college football playoff predictions. Mr. Rinaldi, to that you say.
All right, we'll start with the young ones. We'll go with college first because everybody cares more about the pros, I feel like. And I don't want to be so flippant and just say go chalk with Clemson and Alabama because similar to Golden State, Cleveland. Every other year it's Alabama. I don't want to see the same teams. I will say it's probably going to be Clemson because the ACC is hot garbage. They basically have a way to right to the championship. So I'm going to go Clemson, and I'm going to say your boy Jalen Hurts and Lincoln Riley. A little Clemson, Oklahoma. It's going to be a shootout, and clearly Oklahoma plays terrible defense because they're in the Big 12. And Clemson is going to steamroll again for like their 58th straight championship. And Dabo Swinney he too could write his own check in the NFL if he wanted to when it comes down to a coaching answer.
Wow. I like it, though, because I agree with you on Clemson. I do think a lot of this is dictated on the SEC being such a harder conference. I do think that Georgia is going back to the Field of Four college football playoff. I'm going to put them in with Alabama and Clemson. And I've really debated this hard in my mind because I want to say Oklahoma's going to be in. But I just feel like they're due for one of those years where they finish with one loss, but it's just that bad enough loss to make them finish in like the 5 spot and not actually get in. And then I've toiled with LSU. But I'm going to make a bold prediction here and say this is the year. And we established that Jim Harbaugh's in Michigan, correct? Not John John's in Baltimore. We established that, right?
Establishment made.
All right. Well, I'm going to bold predict here that this is the year for Michigan. Jim Harbaugh's leading the Big Blue, the maize and whatever.
Maize
blue.
And yellow.
You're right.
Maize and gold. I hate Michigan.
No, maize is the blue, is the yellow, isn't it?
Right.
Okay, so maize and blue. He's leading the maize and blue into that number 4 spot. They're going to get slaughtered by Clemson or Alabama, one of those two. I guess for this scenario, I'm going to say Clemson, and I'm actually going to say Georgia. This is the year. They're getting it done. Kirby Smart, greatest name in college football, and I think one of the top 4 or 5 coaches in college football, I think is going to lead the Bulldogs over whoever they play. I guess maybe Alabama, and then they're going to play Clemson, and boom, that's my prediction.
Wow, Josie. Yes, that's why I'm not quite sure about Alabama. With Georgia lurking there, SEC, it's a lot of tough teams. So, but I mean, listen, sunshine over there in Clemson.
I hope
Lawrence. He's gonna be a stud one day for the Miami Dolphins, unless they grab Tua Tagovailoa.
Or Josh Rosen figures it out.
I don't know. Are they starting your boy Fitzmagic down there?
They are. We already got into that. I can't go back into this. Super Bowl predictions.
Super Bowl predictions.
What do you got?
Mr. John Gutty Guddington's. Out of the AFC, it's tough. I believe the AFC Championship is going to be the Patriots versus future Hall of Famer Pat Mahomes. I'm going to go KC coming out of the AFC for this one. It's a little crazy, I know, but I like it. And I don't want to say a team's going to come out of the NFC East, Andrew.
Wow.
Don't make me pick one of those bums out of the AFC.
Someone's going to drop you if you say. Someone is going to really lose their mind if you don't.
Someone's not going to invite me to the Romanella tailgate if I pick an NFC East team that's
not
New York Football Giants. So I'm going to say this is the year that the Saints figure out not to get screwed by phantom pass interference calls, and make it actually to the NFC, win the NFC Championship game, and it's going to be an old versus new, Drew Brees versus Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, Sean Payton. I mean, that's not a bad matchup, Andrew.
I can't believe you just said that. I've been thinking the Saints all week, and I'm going to take the Saints in the NFC side as well. I just think that there is much like I feel like Tom Brady, there is a ride off into the sunset type moment sitting there and waiting for Drew Brees, who so much deserves that towards the end of his career. And I really do feel like the NFC this year is so wide open. It's wide open for any team with what's going on in Green Bay. The fact that Chicago might not be that strong as people feel offensively. Who the hell is Kirk Cousins? You don't know how good the Cowboys are going to be with Zach and Jason Garrett. the Redskins are out. Yeah, the Eagles are pretty good, but it's football. You don't know how much, you could go up and down the list from the NFC, and besides the Rams and the Saints, and in my opinion, the Chicago Bears and Eagles, I don't know if anything else is a sure thing. And in the AFC, I want to say Kansas City, but I am sticking with Baltimore. I think they're going to make a run here. It's going to be secret. It's going to be silent. No one's going to be paying attention. And you're going to see the Baltimore Ravens versus the New Orleans Saints in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 75 or 53 or 92. I don't even know what number it is.
54, maybe?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, bold prediction there. Saints versus Ravens.
Wow. Lots of action there. Tell John Gutty Guns to write in and tell us what his predictions are.
Yeah, I would love to know. I think he sent us a what do you got prediction. I think he was predicting LXU like 31-27.
Oh, little Eddie Orgeron. I love that guy.
Geauex Tigers?
Geax Tigers.
He wrote in. Yeah. So I think that's supposed to be go.
Weird.
Just so John knows, we spell go here G-O on the DAAB podcast. Just want to make sure we get the grammar correct. That's all. Thank you.
Hashtag grammar, please.
So Mr. Rinaldi's making a run here on What Do You Got? We don't want to call it a comeback because we know he's been here for 80 episodes, but it is not a comeback. He is still 11 games under 500, but we're going to give him his due because last week in What Do You Got, Mr. Rinaldi, folks, he chose Christian Yelich and the Milwaukee Brew Crew against the Chicago Cubbies on Sunday Night Baseball. He said that Yelich was going to go 3 for 4 with a home run and 4 RBIs. I thought he was crazy. He said the Brewers would win. I didn't think he was as crazy on that one. The Brewers won. They blanked the Cubbies. And Christian Yelich, he did not go 3 for 4. But he went 1 for 4. He had that home run and 3 RBIs. So Mr. Rinaldi goes a clean 2-0, and he moves his record to 51-62. Ant, you have a 10-second microphone. The floor is yours.
Oh, I could sniff it, Andrew. Heating up. You smell that burning rubber? That's me.
Oh, God.
That's me coming up. That's coming up in the rear. Objects may appear closer than whatever that thing says in your rearview mirror.
Well,
your side view mirror.
I better figure it out then, because I chose the Mets in the midst of their 6-game losing streak. I chose Ahmed Rosario against the Cubs and John Lester. I said he'd go 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a double. He went 0 for 3 with a walk and then ended up going on an 0 for 11 streak. So clearly that's not good for me. And I go to 58-55. So Mr. Rinaldi, I know we're going all NFL picks this week. I'm going to give the floor to you in hopes that you jinx yourself. So, Mr. Rinaldi, what do you got?
I've been teetering back and forth on the football picks, Andrew. I don't know where I want to go. I don't want to be that guy and jinx my own squad. Even though I have been, I think, on a 4-0 streak the last 2 weeks. I just can't. In my heart of hearts, Andrew, I don't want to jinx my squad. So you're welcome, Alfred Hitchcock. I'm not going to jinx my squad. What I'm going to do, I'm going to throw the reverse jinx. And I'm going to pick a game that I just talked about, this team possibly winning the Super Bowl. And I'm going to go Jacksonville versus Kansas City.
Wow.
A Sunday 1 p.m. jump-off in Jacksonville. And, Andrew, I'm taking the dog. Give me the Jaguars.
Wow.
They're going to upset my Super Bowl team, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wow.
Future Hall of Famer Pat Mahomes. But to me, I think similarly to how last year, I think it was KC went up to New England first game week and smacked them around kind of unexpectedly when everyone thought New England was going to go in there and kind of whoop them up. So for me, I think the Jaguars now, they kind of righted the ship. They got a quarterback in Nick Foles that they believe in. I believe Tom Coughlin has that team in the right direction. That defense, I believe, is hungry. They kind of got slapped around towards the end of last year. They weren't quite as good as, or they weren't quite as good as the hype, let's say. And when your boy, who's that pick over there? Jalen
Ramsey.
I forget Jalen Ramsey. When my man shows up in a Brinks truck before training camp, you know things about the fan. So give me Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's going to upset the Chiefs in Week 1. They're KC's a 4-point favorite right now. which means if any of those gambling knuckleheads know, teams typically get 3 points for home field advantage. And obviously, since Jacksonville's home, and they're plus 3.5 or 4, depending on what book you look at, I mean, that's telling me that KC should be a 7-point favorite if they were at home. And I just don't see a touchdown. That's a lot of points. So give me Jacksonville, Andrew. Upset alert, week 1.
Who do you have as your player?
Oh, give me the upstart. Give me the upstart Nick Foles. New home. You know, can he do it outside of Philadelphia? I mean, that's kind of been his MO. I think he had a small stint in Arizona after he left Philly the first time. Didn't quite have any of that magic. Goes back to Philly, gets the magic, wins the damn Super Bowl. And now he's on his own here in Jacksonville. So he's going to be in charge of righting the ship. So give me Nick Foles. He'll go somewhere in the yards of 20, 28, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Andrew, how about that stat line for you?
Wow. All right, so you're going to say that your what do you got pick's going to have a pretty semi-mediocre day, huh? 20 at 28, 285, 2 TDs and a pick. Sounds like
Listen, Nick Foles is an ultimate game manager, Andrew, and if he gets his team a W against the defending AFC, what did they win last year? They didn't win the AFC. No, they were in it.
They won the division. They lost in the championship
Colts, right?
game.
Isn't that a crazy game against the Colts? Or they beat the Colts in that crazy game?
They beat the Colts in that crazy game, I believe.
Right, they lost eventually to Tom Brady, right?
Yes, sir.
As most teams do.
Yes, they do.
But Andrew, who cares about Tom Brady? I care about what do you got and your pick because you're a jinx now. So tell me, Andrew, or should I say, tell the folks what can they get themselves into this weekend and what do you got?
Well, I'm going to get this podcast out quickly, Mr. Rinaldi, because I am choosing the Bears versus the Packers.
Wow.
Much like your reasoning as to the Chiefs being away and in Jacksonville, and if they were at home, you flipped it, they get 7 points, whatever it is. This is, in my opinion, essentially a pick'em game, Bears, Packers, but I'm going to give the Bears the nod being at home with a better defense and not a new head coach trying to connect with Aaron Rodgers. I just think that all signs point towards this being a great opening start for the Bears. And historically, the Bears always blow a big lead against the Packers early in the year. It makes no sense. I think this is the year they get that bugaboo off their shoulders. I'm going to take my boy Mitchell Trubisky. I think he's going to have a lights out day because I just don't think the Packers defense is that good. I think he's going 26 of 32, 313 yards. 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. I just think he's going to have a great day. The Bears are going to go on their way, step 1 to them winning their division, which I've already predicted on this podcast, and Mitchell Trubisky is going to be a huge reason why.
Mitchell, don't call me Mitch Trubisky. Could be a stud. Kind of got him as a sleeper this year. I like him a lot. I like him a lot, Andrew.
Those are your what do you got picks for episode 80. That was a full NFL breakdown. Sprinkled a little bit of college football in there thanks to Mr. John, the Gutty Guttington. And we hope you ladies and gentlemen out there have a glorious first week/weekend of the NFL season.
I believe we have football from here on out until February 3rd or something crazy like that, Andrew. That's a glorious thing. Can't wait to watch my New York Football Giants on Sunday. Can't wait to watch this Thursday night game. Can't wait to step my fantasy lineup. I can't wait. It's football season, Andrew. It's all over the place.
It's super exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the DAAB Podcast, the premier sports podcast, episode number 80. I am Andrew Romanella. That man right there is Mr. Antony Rinaldi.
Tell your friends, and have them tell somebody, goddammit, because let's get the numbers up. But folks, have a great week.
Tune into the Rome Squared podcast on Friday. The Rome Show back on HamiltonRadio.net on Monday, and always every Wednesday into the DAAB Podcast. Until next week, episode 81, we will talk to you later. Me gusta así, me gusta así.